no matter whether you put a team around you, whether you get financial resources, at the end of the day, it's all on you. No excuses.
I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to start my own business, or maybe they're doing something on their own. They're a solopreneur, like a real estate agent or a mortgage broker or whatever it is. I mean, how do you get them to start legitimizing this process to go through?
Welcome to Start With a Win, where we unpack franchising, leadership, and business growth. Let's go.
And coming to you from Area 15 Ventures and Start With a Win headquarters, it's Adam Contos with Start With a Win. Are you ready to learn the secrets of startup success from someone who's been there, done that, and then some? Well, today's guest on Start With a Win is none other than Fred Cary, a true powerhouse in the entrepreneurial world with over 10 companies under his belt and a knack for turning ideas into billion-dollar ventures. Fred is the go-to guru for navigating the startup jungle, and believe me, it is a jungle. As the CEO of IdeaPros, he's made it his mission to guide aspiring entrepreneurs through the twists and turns of the business landscape, helping them turn their visions into reality. Oh, and did I mention he's also the mastermind behind a weekly show that's captivated over 4 million viewers? Yes, this guy knows a thing or two about making it big in business. So if you're ready to soak up some wisdom from a true titan of entrepreneurship, you're in for a treat with Fred Cary. Fred, welcome to Start With a Win.
Nice to be here. I'm really looking forward to this talk.
Awesome. You know, it's not often that we get to talk to really, really strong entrepreneurial development minds like yourself. But I want to start with, how did you get into building businesses? I know you've done like 3 IPOs. You've built hundreds of businesses. You've got, just an immense amount of social media followers and personal branding. How did you get started in this?
I started 10 different companies, and after I sold my last one, I wanted to do one last thing that really find a place in the market, had a big gaping hole in it, and it was growing rapidly. And unbeknownst to me at the time, it was entrepreneurship. We on social media, we are just trained to think that this is easy, and all we got to do is leave our cushy job and we'll start our own business, and we'll be driving our Lamborghinis before no time at all. And as it turns out, almost all of us are outsiders in the field of entrepreneurship. We don't have access to capital, we don't have the resources, the connections that we need to actually have a fighting chance to win. And so I decided to start IdeaPros to democratize entrepreneurship, if you will.
I love that. I mean, and there are certainly a lot of highs and lows in entrepreneurship, more lows than highs, everybody that's listening here. It's, there are, I think, a lot of misconceptions about going out and getting into entrepreneurship. And like you said, people are like, I want to quit my job, whatever it might be. But, we always know that there's this overlap runway of preparing yourself for being an entrepreneur before you get into entrepreneurship. Do you have any advice for somebody who's like, I want to be an entrepreneur? How do I start? Obviously, having a great idea and being able to market that to a marketplace is a plus, but you also need to build yourself up to get ready to be there, don't you?
To have any chance at building your own business as an entrepreneur, you really need to be able to go into the fire and be comfortable with it. You can look at some of the most successful companies and leaders in the world today and take the time to study any of their stories, and you'll see there were many, many times where they were on the edge of defeat. In fact, they got into defeat many, many times before they got their victories that they have. Even companies like Airbnb that finally get their shit together after just torturous ways of starting out, they finally become this amazing billion-dollar company, and overnight their bookings dropped 90% because of COVID, and they had to reinvent themselves again as a billion-dollar company. So it's a struggle that never ends, and it's a journey that never ends, and you need to be prepared for that. If you have the guts to pull it off, then it'll happen. If you come in thinking, this is going to be great, I'll work 3-hour days and have all this money coming in, then this is not the right thing for you.
Right. And I mean, having gone to market and also having to having funded companies, it's fascinating because you get these instances where people are like, I've got this great product, but they're broke, and they're just looking for somebody to that angel to come out there and give them wings and help them get there. But ultimately, a lot of these things don't necessarily even happen on an idea. I mean, very few businesses start on just an idea. You have to have multiple steps in order to get there. And I know you guys have this, this 3-step process of fund, build, launch, in looking at your website, or maybe that's just, the 3 legs of the stool or something like that. And that just gets you into the marketplace, I suppose. It doesn't even guarantee anything. So, what do you typically see when people come to you and say, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to start my own business, or maybe they're doing something on their own. Maybe they're a solopreneur, like a real estate agent or a mortgage broker or whatever it is. I mean, how do you get them to start legitimizing this process to go through?
Yeah, the very first thing we do when we interview anybody is really see what their mettle is. What are they all about? As I just said, you have to persevere, and you have to be comfortable with pain in order to pull this off. It's like going to the gym. You go to the gym on your own. You think everything's cushy, and then the first time you work out with a trainer, you're bitching to everybody who will take your phone calls that night about the fact that you can't even walk. And that's the difference between what you think entrepreneurship is in trying to do it on your own and what it really turns out to be. It's really intense. It takes a lot of work. And as you said, launching is just the beginning. And yet 99% of us don't even get to the point where we launch. And that's where we position our companies for, our founders for, to really train them, educate them, be prepared for the fires ahead, get them launched, get them their first funding, and then it's an ongoing journey that never ends. I mean, you're always going to have to be looking at your growth, your competitors, how to make yourself obsolete so you can get to the next generation of what you're doing. It doesn't quit, it doesn't end. There is no end. There's no finish line.
And you guys bring people into you have something called the Insiders Club. And I guess you start educating people at that point. Is that kind of hey, let's see if they can stick to systems and processes? Or, I mean, explain to us what the Insiders Club is.
Yeah, I started the Insiders Club because I wanted to give a voice to the 95% of entrepreneurs who are not insiders. We look on social media and we see all these millionaires, multimillionaires, billionaires talking about how easy this all is. And it's the furthest thing from the truth. When you look at the data, the multimillionaires and billionaires that consider themselves entrepreneurs, 94% of them went to elite schools. 60% of those got advanced degrees from those schools. They have professors that can pick up the phone, get a meeting with top venture capital in America, and the rest of us are complete outsiders. So the Insiders is just really, it's a free forum. We have workshops 2-3 times a month. We have newsletters that go out every week. Really, it's an educational forum where people can really learn what it is that they're going to have to go through before they take those first steps in actually doing it.
And what do you look for? Obviously, it's also kind of an incubator for you guys, I would guess. You're planting a field and seeing what sprouts and what has the consistency and the fortitude, things like that. What do you look for in those people? Is there anything in particular that is a turn on, a turn off? What pushes the venture capitalists away from budding entrepreneurs, things like that?
Yeah. Everybody has an idea. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that's listening to this show that didn't wake up some morning at 3 a.m. with this amazing idea, fell asleep, and then never thought about it again. So what I'm looking for is a pretty good idea. It doesn't have to be a great idea because none of the ideas we start with are the ones we end up with. A pretty good idea, but a really solid human being that has a high emotional intelligence level, that has this kind of persistence about them, that understands that everything's going to be on them, no matter whether you put a team around you, whether you get financial resources. At the end of the day, it's all on you. No excuses. You're the one that has to get up every morning and go to the gym, if you will.
Can you give us an example of somebody who came into IdeaPros with an idea and has launched a business around that?
One good example is a company that we have called Olive and Coop. It's Olive and COOP.com. And that is an app to put elder Americans together with younger, like college students and people in their 20s. The thought process behind it is older people want to stay home. 92% of them want to stay in place. They don't want to go to assisted living. They don't need caregivers. They just need somebody around the house to help with chores, to make sure they're taking their meds, maybe driving to the doctor or whatever. And young folks can't afford rent nowadays. I mean, here in San Diego, $3,000 a month gets you a studio apartment that you can't even get a roommate for. Who can afford that kind of stuff? So in exchange for getting a bedroom and your own space in an elder person's home, an older person's home, you get rent of, instead of $3,000, maybe it's $500, and all you do is agree to a list of things that you put together. The couple that started this, they have like the most amazing attitude. They have no problem at all understanding that they're the ones responsible for pulling this off, for figuring out what to do about it, where they're going to start. They have my strategic advice. But I brought the two of them up to Palo Alto just a couple months ago to raise capital, and we had them in front of 50 different venture capital firms. And one, which is a really prestigious firm, said, "This is the best pitch I've heard in years." These guys have never pitched before to anybody. They did their homework. They got their training from me. They found their story. By the way, their pitch, unlike most pitches of sophisticated founders, their pitch started with, "Let me tell you about the day that I thought my father died." That was the first line. Now, who's not going to put down their email and their phone and listen to hear what that second line is? And by the time they were done, the father was the inspiration for Olive and Coop. By the time they were done, their last slide was a picture of their dad, Oklahoma farmer, sitting in front of his field with all these crops behind him, really smiling and happy because he was one of their success stories. So I'm looking for those type of people that will roll up their sleeves, that will go find money, that will do all the homework necessary to go out there and make a difference.
Wow. I mean, it certainly takes a lot of grit and a lot of fortitude in order to achieve that. Is there a particular, demographic? I've heard that most entrepreneurs who are successful at launching businesses are somewhere between the age of 35 and 45. But are you seeing any trends in what's being successful, what's not, any sort of background or education? Or is it just like that scrappy person that comes in and says, "I don't care what you tell me, I'm not going to quit"? I mean, what direction do you typically find these folks come from?
Yeah, and you're spot on, by the way. Our sweet spot is between 30 and 55. That's where they come from. Now, you have the 20-year-olds that are going to venture capital all day long, right? They're coming out of Berkeley or Stanford or Harvard, and they're even quitting those schools and getting venture capital money. They've never run a business before in their lives. The sweet spot for us, the real entrepreneurs, as I refer to them, are people that are already in corporate America. They're middle management, upper management. They make a really good wage. They have great benefits. They're only working 40 hours a week, and they wake up every morning thinking that life sucks, and they can't do it. We had one guy come over that he was making $750,000 a year in his executive capacity and just hated his life. And so that's what we're seeing as the sweet spot of American entrepreneurship, are these outsiders from corporate America. There's no entrepreneur capability in the organizations that they operate within. And so they're going out to try to do it on their own.
So obviously there's a lot of benefit to coming from corporate America or the corporate environment if you're not in America. In order to do this, obviously, one, you have a paycheck, so you can make ends meet while you're starting your business. But do you find that most of these endeavors that turn into something that creates enterprise value and creates good profitability start as a side hustle? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you can start as a side hustle, but that's a very brief period of time. The one benefit I think that people who started with our flagship product at IdeaPros is that we did all the heavy lifting. You have an idea, you have a checkbook, you come in and basically say, all right, we're going to spend the next year to 2 years working on this. We're going to build everything. We're going to work with you. We're going to train you as an entrepreneur. So you have an immediate co-founder and team in place. You're paying a bunch of money up front, but you're paying about a quarter of what it's going to cost you to do on your own. You have the flexibility to stay in your main gig. And then a year down the road, when we're getting close to launch time, then you can decide when it's time to bail corporate America. But most of us don't have that luxury. So yeah, they kind of start out as a side hustle, and pretty soon you get overwhelmed with all the stuff that's coming at you, and you make your decision to go leave the job that you have.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's what got me going in entrepreneurship. I was a police officer. I had 2 companies I started on my own, and then it pushed me into other things. But it's particularly public servants. If you're working nights, you've got all day long to run your business. So it's fantastic as long as you're getting enough sleep to be safe on the job. But that's great. This is a fast-paced world for startups. We see everybody wants to create a startup, and it was very taboo. I'm Gen X, and when I was, in my 20s or whatever, being an entrepreneur was not a popular thing. People were like, that means you can't work for somebody. And now everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. But is that the place for everybody? Or, what path would you recommend for people to start getting to know this? Because a lot of people don't even know the difference between a LLC and a corporation, or, what some of the, the contract type issues you deal with, or anything about marketing. I know you've built a great personal brand. You've built a great brand around IdeaPros, but it took you a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to get there, and a lot of time. Anything in particular you see that people are most blind to when it comes into entrepreneurship?
I truly think that what people are most blind to are the fundamental elements that you need to have in place to make this work. We do a couple of things that are really improper. And number one, we go into battle without knowing who our opponents are, the General Custer School of Strategy. And we also don't really understand the fires and things that we're going to need to go through, and understand the fact that it's more likely we're going to fail than succeed. But it's the beginning of a journey, a path to success. Wherever that success may be, it's going to be way different than where you started. I mean, even guys like Elon Musk, he, with both SpaceX and Tesla, he said he was sure he had less than a 10% chance of winning with either of those. And yet, knowing those odds, I mean, you're going to jump out of an airplane knowing you have a 90% chance that the chute's not going to open. We're not going to do that. It has to be that type of person to understand the odds are against you. Nobody's going to give you anything. You're going to fail 100 times before you find that right path. It takes that type of fortitude and determination in a person to make this journey tolerable. Other than that, this is a suicidal mission.
There must be a lot of late nights on Zoom over a cocktail crying with some of these people to say, tomorrow's going to happen. We just got to keep going. I mean, do you find the psychology in this is just got to be off the charts great with respect to emotional intelligence and things like that?
Yeah, I would say 2 things about that. Number one, with 400 companies under our belt right now, there's a lot of midnight oil being burned. But number 2, what I find about the biggest entrepreneurs, the ones that have the best chance, they're going to get on the call with you and they're going to reassure you instead of the other way around, right? Entrepreneurs that need encouragement, and guys, think about this. You're going into battle on your own. If you need encouragement to go into the battle, you're probably not going to win. It's the ones that are like, let me in, coach, let me in, coach. Those are the ones that are really, really going to make it. So if you need somebody to nudge you and encourage you and cajole you into taking that next step, then maybe you're not cut out for this. It's The ones that don't need that support, that just need to know that, hey, I'm going into battle with somebody by my side, not necessarily somebody leading me. Those are the ones that have the best chance of making it.
Wow. And that sounds like some leadership principles there, some, internal leadership. And you talk about people who come from the corporate world, that sweet spot. I know they have, once you get to that point, you've been exposed to some different managerial and leadership type components in life, and you probably supervise some people at that point. How does leadership play into what you do? And is that an imperative? Because you've got to lead yourself in order to lead others, in order to lead the company, whatever. What do you look for in that, and what do you recommend?
Yeah, you think entrepreneurship and leadership go hand in hand, but they're polar opposites. Because as an entrepreneur, when you start out, you're doing everything. My dad used to call it the one-armed paper hanger, right? Everything you're doing on your own. And there comes a point in time when business starts growing, you bring in people, hopefully really talented people who believe what you're doing. You have to make a really sharp transition from an entrepreneur to a leader. And the leader is a person who lets go of the reins, lets other people run that race with them, and focuses on working on the business instead of in the business, as they say. So that's a big, big shift. And I would say to anybody who wants to be an entrepreneur, that understand in the beginning, you're going to do it all yourself. But fundamentally, the way companies work, surround yourself with really, really talented and passionate people, have a great plan in place, and then get the hell out of the way and let them go and execute on that plan. That's the way your company is going to grow into something amazing.
I love that. I have something that I call founder syndrome. And having started companies, having taken over companies, things like that, I've always believed that founders have this syndrome of, okay, I'm going to make the decisions. This is my baby. And they have trouble handing their baby off to those people you're talking about that they should be trusting to go and run and develop the company. And if they did it right, like you said, they're not the smartest person in the room anymore. You're upgrading. So what does, when I say founder syndrome and struggle with releasing this as the founder and moving on to a CEO role or a chairman role or something like that, what do you see as, key challenges that founders have in progressing their company to the next level?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this. If you're listening and you're a founder of a company, the number one failure of entrepreneurial companies in the first year is that the founder has created something there's no demand for. Because we get so myopically focused on what we want, what we think is a great idea, that we don't look at the rest of the world. We're not going to buy our idea. Everybody else in the world is. We don't do our homework. We don't do our research, our studies to see that we're in a good spot. There's a growing marketplace with good competition, and we found that hole in the market to proceed forward. We don't do the intellectual inquisitory search within ourselves and into the marketplace to see if we're on the right path. So what I would say to any of those founders is let go, man. You just got to loosen up. You have to understand that your good idea today could be a great idea tomorrow if you surround yourself with the right people and you have the fluidity to just go where that river is going to take you.
I love that. Go where that river is going to take you. That takes a lot of guts to do that. And, we've already talked about the fortitude necessary there. Fred Cary with IdeaPros, a powerhouse entrepreneur, investor, really, just kind of somebody who helps others build businesses. Fundamentally, we need more people like you in this world because entrepreneurship drives growth economically and in the communities and society, and it helps people find new opportunities. Fred, where can we find you online? I know you have an awesome online presence and you deliver so much value there. Where can we find you there?
Well, thanks. On Instagram, at official Fred Cary, Cary. I put one post up a day for right now, and hopefully inspirational leadership, personal development, doing the right thing, things like that will start your day off right. You can also go to ideapros.com and sign up as an insider. It's completely free. You're going to get information every week, and you're going to have opportunities to be part of our free workshops as well. And if you got a great idea and you're getting ready to launch, and you want to have a co-founder with you, you can actually just write to me at fred@ideapros.com, and I'll take your email, I'll respond to it, and I can either help you or guide you.
Awesome. Make sure you check out Fred on Instagram and also at ideapros.com. Fred, I have a question I ask all the great leaders on this show, and that's, how do you start your day with a win?
Starting your day with a win can be difficult. So what I decide to work on, before I work on the business, I work on the business of me. And so I make sure I get up early. I get up by 5 every day. I have a trainer that comes here for 90 minutes a day, 5 days a week. When I'm done with that, I actually look in the mirror and do personal affirmations, start getting that positivity going. I practice gratitude. I find at least 3 things that I'm grateful for this morning, like I did today. And I'll meditate 5-10 minutes, nothing big. And then I'll read. I'll read something, a chapter, a page, a paragraph, whatever it is of the book I'm interested in at the time. And then I start my day, because my philosophy is, if you start your day on yourself first, you'll be physically and mentally prepared to handle the challenges ahead of you. So that I say, start your positive day with your positive self.
Wow. That's one of the best answers I've heard. And I love that. So, and I mean, we've done over 300 of these. So thank you for sharing that. This is fantastic. Fred Cary, you've helped a lot of people. You continue to help a lot of people. Thanks for all you do. And thanks for being on Start With a Win.
Thank you. Appreciate it.